Facebook and a few others at the same time. So it takes me a little minute to get this up. And that take a little while to get it up. It take a little while to get it up. All right, I think we're there. All right, I want to be able to see my comments. All right, how's everybody doing today? It's Saturday, man. How y'all doing? Woo! All right, I haven't done one of these in a little while. It's been a little busy in life, going into Facebook jail. Nobody tossed some salad though. I made it, y'all. I'm good to go. All right, Indiana Jones. So, what do we have going on this week? We had a bunch of stuff happening in archaeology news, man. All right, let me see. Hold on. We're almost there. Okay, I think we're there. I got to be able to see my comments because I'm not talking to myself. How is everybody doing today? I have to give my warning right from jump. If you're looking for some mainstream archaeology, this is not the video. Don't watch this video. My friends and I, we're a little crazy. On the weekend, we like to talk about special stuff. Every now and then, we'll get into some aliens, some UFOs, basically anything that the government's lying about. Now, I'm not saying aliens exist. I'm not saying UFOs exist. I'm saying that our governments are always lying to us. I'm saying that anything that they can do to control how we think, what we think, and why we think it, they'll do it. And so, all right, but I gotta start. I like to laugh a little bit, have a little fun. But I'm gonna start on a sad note. Before we go to the sad note, let me see who's in the room. Make sure I'm not talking to myself. Talk to yourself. People say you're crazy, but I talk to myself all the time. So let me see. Oh, I can't even see. Oh my goodness. What the heck? It's too many of y'all in here today. It's a whole bunch of people today. I can't even see everybody. Let me see who I can see. I see Brother Manuel's in the house. Hey, Kier is in the house. Good morning. Brother Bajorn is in the house. Oh, Brother Bajorn, he bring that brother. Bajorn, yeah, but he's a great guy. You know what? You gotta have people who always debate all sides of everything. Otherwise, you never get to the truth. So Brother Bajorn is in the house. Hey, Teresa, I see you. Brother Mark and Joe. It's a whole bunch of people I can't see. And there's, we got Deborah in the house and Harley and Cindy, Carla, Chuck. Okay. Oh, Jerissa in the house on a Sunday. Lori and Amanda. All right. And Sister Verna and Kevin just came in. All right, let's get to going. Whoo! All right, look, we got to start off on a little bit of sad news, you guys. A little bit of sad news. We lost somebody. We lost a brother this week, y'all. We lost a very prominent brother this week, and I credit him as being the father of alternative archaeology. Brother John Anthony West passed away. Cancer took him. John Anthony West, if you're not familiar with him, he was the man who, he pretty much started off this approach, that popularly started off. Because I think there was a French archaeologist before him who kind of sent us down the road that the mainstream really wasn't telling us the truth, that Indiana Jones and Hitler and all of this stuff, there actually is a lot more going on than what we knew. He was one of the ones who identified that the weathering on the Sphinx couldn't possibly have happened in the last couple thousand years. He was the one who proved that the Sphinx had water damage. He took the geologist over there, and they had that assessment through the watering on the basins of the Sphinx that told us that the Sphinx minimally had to go back to a time where there were torrential downpours. So the minimum age of the Sphinx, last time that I heard the discussion on that, based on the ice core drillings and what we know of the climate in Egypt, was going back minimum 12,000 years. And then it had to have a couple hundred years worth of that weathering damage. And so we know the civilization that built the Sphinx, we know nothing about. We know almost nothing about. So John Anthony West sent us down that path. And God bless the brother. thank him for his service and his time on this planet. He did his part, but he opened up this really wide door. So if you're like, I got a lot of friends who are, what do you call them? Ancient alien theorists, and he opened the door for all of this. He opened all of our eyes to the fact that academia doesn't always have it right. You can be degreed up to wazoo, but you can still be crazy out your wazoo. So I certainly appreciate John Anthony West. If you're not familiar with him, you can find a lot of his lectures online. One of his greatest talks he did was actually it was a Joe Rogan podcast, and there are documentaries and different things about John Anthony West. So appreciate the brother, and he is gone, but we got to carry on the torch. And that's why I got the Sphinx behind me, y'all. Because, first of all, let me tell you, another thing in mainstream's lying about, the Sphinx does not have the head it's supposed that they say it has. It was not an Egyptian head. The head originally, we have no idea what it looked like, but there's based on the body, the shape of it, the length of it, the paws, they think it was a lion. But not only that, they don't think it was a male lion. They think it was a female lion, because the body of the male lion is a bit different. And our ancients, they paid attention to detail. Like we were getting into a good discussion about, there was a Sumerian tablet I posted. I want to say it was 2 days ago, yesterday, something like that. And we were looking at whether or not it was what it was. And we noticed, we were talking about the Stargate, and we were talking about, it's a mirror. Somebody said it was a cat. I gotta show you the picture. If you don't see the picture, you'll be lost. Like, what the hell is he talking about? But our ancestors, they paid great attention to detail. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't want to go down that avenue just yet. All right, so here we go. They paid attention to detail. So they think it was the head of a female lion, perhaps, or a creature that we have no idea what it was. But so I like this picture, so I threw this together. It was a little tropical picture of the pyramid in the background and the Sphinx in the front, and but we don't know who did it. And so John Anthony West, he opened up this whole massive door that we actually don't know the civilizations that came before us. And then you have the corroborating research by the different archaeologists academia archaeologists, which is good. They still know what they're doing. They just get lost a little bit. Sometimes your degree gets stuck in your wazoo. But they took us down that avenue of knowing that the human race has had ancient technology that goes far beyond what we thought. That our population limits, I think it was at least 8 to 10 times dropped beneath 10,000 human beings on the planet. That we've gone through these massive extinctions. And then the astrophysicists, they chime in with it. Yep, the asteroid's been coming a long time. And so we know that we've gone through all these different diebacks, and that there possibly is technology that we lost a long time ago. Going down to Peru and Chichen Itza and the pyramids. Oh my gosh, the megaliths. We know that we don't know it all. And that's my basic argument for everything. I don't think I know it. I know I don't know it. I wasn't here. But it's fun because I have a lot of friends. They must have been here because they know. They absolutely know what happened. So I don't know what happened. I just look back and I say, you know what, man, I don't know. That's looking kind of funky. Something is there. But they paid attention to detail. So anyway, what I want to talk about initially is LIDAR technology. LIDAR technology is going to change the world. Yeah, you know what, Rochelle's talking. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the comments. I was off in my head. Sometimes I get down in that tunnel. Is the Sphinx head does it resemble what the constellation of Leo? I don't know. I know that, of course, in archaeology, they spend a lot of time saying that a lot of the setups of the pyramids and different features and the ley lines around the world, where all the sites are, that they link up with different constellations. I'm not entirely certain. I think it makes sense. I think that if you're gonna get me in trouble early, right off. But I think that if something did come out of the sky, like all the ancients and all the religions and everything said that things came out of the sky and taught us, and You know, from the Incas to I think the Aztecs, the Egyptians, the Christians, if they all said something came out of the sky, then it makes sense that a lot of the sites would be based in some sort of astrological setup because that's their way, like that's their landmark, right? Like that's how they tag something. You know how they used to tag things in the ghetto and they would spray the trains? If you're not familiar in America, everything's tagged. If you turn anything over in America, it'll say made in China. Because well, see, the Chinese, they wanted to make sure that Americans knew who's making all this stuff. And so I think that ancients, you know, going back, if they were making these sites and all of these aliens were coming down, or whatever they are, gods, whatever you want to call them, I'm fine with that. Human beings traveling back in time machines, whatever. I think that they would actually tag a lot of the sites with things that indicate where they came from or what they need to focus on or whatever. So I think that's possible. I don't know. But I want to talk about Guatemala. Let's go down the Guatemala Trail. So there's something called LIDAR technology, which I'm excited about. And I'm pretty sure, and I'd say, oh, it's a new technology called LIDAR. No, it's probably old. It's probably ancient. They probably had it about 100 years ago because our governments never tell the truth. They had this stuff, and they slowly release it to us over time. Let me see if I can find a picture of it for you. But it's called LIDAR technology. It's, oh, I forgot what it stands for. Hold on. Here's a picture of it. And so what this is to the archaeological world, to the undiscovered world, it's a way of peering through the tree canopy to see structures that are geometric in shape. So it's a way of finding structures that are beneath the tree canopy. What it uses is a laser that shoots down through the tree canopy. And of course, because of the jungle is so dense, you can't see the buildings that are underneath. You can't see the little square corner. Well, this technology is so phenomenal that you can have a little corner of a brick here on this wall and a corner of a brick 1,000 feet that way and a corner of a brick somewhere else forming a square. It'll pierce, just one little piece of laser gets through just a couple leaves because, right, light always hits the bottom of the jungle, the ground floor. And so what it does, it just that little piece of data, it takes that, maps it together back in the computer in the database, and they can actually start to lay out the landscape beneath the tree canopy just from the breaks in the leaves in the tree canopy. And so this is actually changing discovery all over. It allows us to go where, you know, places like where the Sphinx is, it's a desert, and that's why we know about the pyramids and the Sphinx is because it's a desert right now. But where places where they're overgrown, you'll have no idea what's beneath the tree canopy. So LIDAR technology, of course, they've been using it a long time, but I think they just told us about it. They flew over some sites in Guatemala. And guess what they found? They found a city that had to hold at least 25 million people. 25 million people. That's half the people that live in Europe, live in a space that's smaller than Italy. What does that tell you about our ancients? These people were not idiots. These people, and in that find, they found a pyramid that is 7 stories tall. 7 stories tall in Guatemala, which is beyond phenomenal. So a few other things. So they found there were about 60,000 different buildings. Most of them are square platforms. Obviously, the building's long gone. But they had streetways, and they had markets, and they had temples, and they had massive, massive roadways to support this massive, massive population. And these were all, you know, booty scratching, what are y'all, spear chucking, grass skirt wearing pagans. You know what really pisses me off? Sometimes it pisses me off when they look back at these ancient cultures, and they're always trying to convince us that they were just, they were some sort of pagans that were just always cutting up some virgins and dripping their blood on something. And to me, that's insanity. It's insanity. First of all, I'm gonna go back to Guatemala for a minute. I hate this. I'm gonna blow this up for a minute, because the larger your empire, like we know how this works. You don't get to have a 25 million person city going back in ancient times or today without murdering a whole lot of people. So they always like to point back and say, oh, but they were monsters and pagans, the Mayans and the Incans, because they were always, yes, savages. Thank you, Steve, brother Steve. The savages, they're always murdering people. You know, so we kind of want to forget them. Don't even think about them. Let's brush them out of technology, because they were just savages and pagans, and they ate each other, and they were cannibals. And I'm sitting here thinking half the time, you know what? No matter how big an empire gets, you know, you're messing with the self-determination of a lot of people. 25 million, to support 25 million people, you probably got to have at least 50 million farmers, 50 million people carrying water, 50 million people doing all these other things. To have a country like the United States with 240 million people, just lazy, fat, just we can sit here and drink our coffee, don't have to do nothing, ain't got to make our shoes, pitch no water, we don't have to make no candles. It takes a whole lot of murder to keep that empire up, right? And so same thing with the British Empire. So you look at the drone warfares and all the people we're murdering all over the planet. Every single day we're bombing children. So don't tell me anything about some savages from the past in Africa or Incans or Mayans or the Middle East or the Huns. Like, that's just damn ridiculous. So first of all, that bothers me to begin with. So no, the Mayans and the Incans weren't savages. They weren't pagans. They did what they had to maintain a massive empire, the same way that we do today. Y'all ever see the presidents laughing? We got predator drones. We gonna answer. We gonna predator. You know, because you got to murder a lot of people to keep up a massive empire. So they're not savages. Obviously, they had a 25 million person city. They could not have been savages. They had technology and they had city planning and things that just. Oh my God, thank you, brother Rochelle. I mean, think about just sanitation alone. My gosh, how in the world do you, I have sanitation issues in my house. I had boys, I have boys. You know, I got issues in my house. 25 million? Come on, I don't like to clean the bathroom now. So we know that they were very evolved people. So let's keep going. So anyway, the area that they've discovered, this city is massive, right? And so the place that they found these structures, it covers something like 5,000 square miles worth of land. They're talking about they're going to take the next 3 years to study. And I was sitting there like, 3 years? Really? You're going to study 5,000 square miles in 3 years. This is why I think they're lying about everything. I think they've been just digging stuff for the longest time. They done found the Stargates and everything. I got people who tell you in Iraq that we invaded Iraq to get the Stargate. But I think they lie about all of these sites mainly because they're just pulling technology out. Like they're doing what Indiana Jones was doing. They're doing what Hitler was doing, where they were constantly trying to find the technology that our ancients had. I was looking at the megaliths. They had, my gosh, they're uncovering now megaliths in Russia. I have to see if I can pull that up. We can talk about that sometime. They have megaliths in Russia that make the massive megaliths that we couldn't move today. Look, there's a megalith that's something like 200 feet long, and it's just impossible. The guy standing on the top, you can't even see the guy standing, and it's this massive square brick that they cut with the intention of moving. The ancients knew something we didn't know, but I think that takes us down to Edgar Cayce and the Akashic Records and some of those details, right? And whether it's technology, I'm not saying it's circuit board technology. We don't know. It could have been. Because when the Ice Age came, we know all this stuff breaks down and it just becomes minerals again. It's all asteroid dust to begin with, and nature takes it back. So it's very possible that they had high technology based on circuit boards, whatever, but it more possibly could have been energy, right? It could have been tapping into some sort of energy fields and waves. We know psychics exist. We know telekinesis exists. We know Edgar Cayce knew things he shouldn't ever possibly have known. So it's possible they used vibration or they used sound or something to carry these massive bricks. But anyway, I think that they don't tell us about these sites till they've already discovered them, because there's a lot of technology they know that the ancients had to have had that they really don't want us focused on. And so that's some of the LIDAR mapping. So I'm gonna go back. Let me finish telling you about Guatemala. I get off on tangents sometimes. So it's light detection and ranging. That's what LIDAR stands for. So they're piercing through the tree canopy. So I guarantee they're using it everywhere. You can even use it in water to discover sites under the water. So what else we got? But I think also it indicates that there was a worldwide connected civilization that we don't know anything about, right? So we know how many pyramids are there now? At one time we thought, oh, there are a couple, 7 great pyramids, right? And then it's like, nope, it's a couple dozen. Nope, go to South America. Nope, it's like 100. You know, start looking in Russia and Bosnia and all over the planet. Nope, there are literally thousands of pyramids all over the planet. In Egypt alone, now they're finding destroyed pyramids. They're finding pyramids that haven't been uncovered yet. There were something like 10,000 sites found in Egypt on that technology they're using for sensing, is it temperature and moisture? And so there are thousands of pyramids all over this planet. And do you think that magically all over the planet, everybody just jumped up and started making pyramids? Hey, you know what? I'm going to start making some pyramids. I'm not going to eat today. I'm not going to go hunt for no food. I'm going to go ahead and just make a pyramid. And so this is one of those things I think that we need to think about in terms of, you know, there used to be a civilization that connected all over this planet in terms of, let me move this picture, in terms of technology and just the point of creating a pyramid. Like, why even would you want to make it? But then it also asked the question, well, how did they do it? How did they get all over this planet? How did they move? Did they have any kind of magic or stargates that connected the different points in the planet? I think all that's possible. I don't know if that's what they're doing over at CERN. Like some people talk about with the Higgs boson and they're trying to make a Stargate. I think that's possible. I don't know. I ain't been there. They won't let me in. I go to the site. They're like, oh, yeah, you're not coming. I did, you know. So we don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. But it takes us down what we were looking at, we were talking about a few days ago of, yeah, somebody just mentioned Edgar Cayce, right? So, you know, Edgar Cayce, I was paying attention to what Edgar Cayce was talking about Plato. Wait, was it Plato? Plato came back and he was talking about Atlantis, right? Edgar Cayce talked about Atlantis. And there was something I posted, actually I posted a few minutes ago, actually, come to think of it. It was Graham Hancock talking about how Plato gave the dates for Atlantis and when Atlantis was lost. And Plato came back, told everybody about Atlantis. They're like, you're crazy, you blind, you stupid. And they didn't pay any attention to him. But now even today, geologists are saying, well, whoa. We're not saying Atlantis is real. But we're saying there were cataclysms on the planet at the time that Atlantis was said to have disappeared. And so we, you know, the odds that Plato came back and lied about Atlantis, but knew the dates and when it was destroyed, it makes you really start to think that, yeah, there was some sort of Atlantis. And Atlantis, what was one of the stories they talked about? Flying ships, right? They had flying ships back then. You know, in Egypt, they discovered that that carved bird. It was a glider that you could throw and it would actually fly. We talked about the Mahabharata and Sanskrit. They talked about the Vimanas. I was posting the other day, Brother Bajoran was getting on me. I was posting on the Vimanas. And so most of the cultures going back talked about these flying things. The Aztecs and the Mayans talked about these flying ships that they saw in the past. We know that, you know, why. Well, you know, one of the things that interests me about the Vimanas, let me go find a picture of one of the Vimanas, some of the drawings of the picture. One of the things they talked about the Vimanas, and they gave the dimensions for them. Like, it wasn't like it was a flying ship in a story and they mentioned it once. They mentioned it a few times. And they gave the dimensions for actually what the, you know, the size of the Vimana, almost like how they gave the dimensions for an ark, right? In order to have a civilization that's connected all over the world, you have to have some sort of flying ship, right? You're not walking and you're not traveling in ships. Now, an interesting story, if you go back, look at China, you talk about the treasure junks. And I forgot what emperor that was, but, you know, we know that China was all over the planet. We know China had these massive treasure junks, which are long gone, where they sailed all over the world. And they, you know, which is part of why they think they found pottery, the Chinese pottery in South America, that a lot of South Americans actually have DNA from China. But China went all over the world, circumnavigated, but that took too long. So they had to have some sort of way to connect people, right? They found cocaine. They found the coca plant in Egypt. That's right. Yeah, it's illegal, but it's medicinal too. but they found that in the Egyptian tomb. So we know there was trade, and we know that they were connected long before the treasure junks and long before China did that. So the other thing I find interesting when I think about it, I think about if you think men can fly and you're an ancient way back then, you just think, okay, well, men can fly or something like that. But they went as far as to say these were flying cities, that people actually lived on them. If you just went back a couple hundred years, a couple thousand, we wouldn't even think that it's possible to have an aircraft carrier where you basically have a ship that is a daggone city with thousands of people living for months, if not years, on the ocean. We don't even think about stuff like that. So the idea that you go back 10,000 years or more and people are actually thinking about you could have a flying city, like that's just not even fathomable. You know, maybe a human with wings is, but not a flying city. And so this gets into all the delicious theories about the ziggurats and the flying pyramids. You ever notice that people looking up, they're seeing UFOs shaped like triangles today? So, and I'm not saying V-minors are real. I know. I see Brother Bajoon on the thread now. I don't know what he's talking about. I see you going. I'm not saying V-minors are real. I'm just saying that every ancient culture, not every, but too many ancient cultures talk about these flying ships that we saw. All throughout the Bible, they talk about flying ships. In Indian, the Indian gods, they talk about flying ships. The Greek gods, they were talking about flying ships. And so I don't think that the ancients was so bored that they just had nothing to do. They were sitting around. They got tired of playing Monopoly and they decided, you know what, let's just make up some lies. Let's just pretend that this is real. I don't think that that's true. I think if you go back, I think that our ancients are like us. I think that they would do anything they could to pass on the truth to the next generation. And if they saw something that was so magical and mystical and just blew their minds, it would be worth me saying, you know what, honey, lean over to my caveman wife. Look, baby, listen, I'm not going to go hunt today. I'm not going to get no food. We're going to starve for a few days because I need to pass this story down, get a little piece of rock or something with a little kink, 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 kink. I got to draw a picture of that damn thing that just flew down and landed, and it showed Jethro and them down in the cave down there how to plant food and gave him something called mathematics and science. Kink, 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 kink. And I'm sitting here and spend half a month like just making a picture of the V-Mana so my next generation, they would know. And so anyway, I don't think that's true. Besides the fact that, so I think there's a lot of interesting things that link these things together. I don't think our ancients were so bored that they would just sit around and make up a bunch of stories like people on Facebook today. If they had Facebook back then, it wasn't Facebook. It was probably Jabunga book and some caveman word. But all right, I'm off. I'm in some. I'm telling you what I think. I'm not telling you what I know. I was not there. I just know that our governments are always lying. Let me see what's going on the thread. I'm sorry. I love it. It's a lot of fun. Let me see. Rochelle, what you say? Atlanteans went to Egypt after Atlantis was destroyed. Yes, Rochelle. Yes, and that's what. Who is it? That's one of the things Edgar Casey said. Edgar Casey said, and if you're not familiar with Edgar Casey, he was one of the first psychics that there was enough information on to know that something like 91% of everything he said came true, that it was so, his predictions were so on point that eventually he opened a hospital and doctors came to him for treatments and they brought patients to him. He'd go to sleep and he'd wake up and say, okay, well, here's your problem. It's this. You need to use this medication, whatever. And so in Edgar Casey's time, they completely believed that he was legit because what he said came true. And so he talked about the Sphinx. He talked about a bunch of things, but I think it was something like 91% of what he said they say was right. And now that got shifted. I was watching something the other day. They said it's more like 93% or something because some of the things he predicted didn't come true till now. So like one of the things he and his father did, his father was trying to exploit his gift. They went to do some oil drilling, right? They're like America. They didn't take no drones and murder a bunch of people. They wanted to get some oil out of Texas. And so he said, well, son, find the oil. Where the oil at for us? And Edgar Casey, he went to sleep and he got up. Dad, I know where the oil's at. You know, it's right here on the map, right here, right here. And so they opened the oil company. They went down. They started drilling. They didn't find any oil, and they went bankrupt. They went out of business. But what they found is, I think his son went back there. I think he has one surviving son, if I'm not mistaken, went back to some of the sites that his grandfather and his father drilled at where there was supposed to be oil, and there are oil derricks there. There are oil rigs there now. So they're actually drilling for oil. It's just at that time, they didn't have the technology to go down that deep. So anyway, so Edgar Casey was spot on point. And one of the things he said is that when he went to sleep, he kind of explained what he saw. And he said he would go and he would tap into the Akashic record, which is this whole, theory of there's an idea of everything that happens on the planet ends up in the Akashic record. Everything's recorded. And I know people, that's crazy. I don't believe that. And this is why I like to go to theory, and I think about what I would do, what we would do. If we did a scientific experiment and we made, like the biodome, here's a good example, the biodome, and we did that again today, we would have sensors, cameras all over the biodome. We would be recording data, temperature, humidity. We'd be recording social stuff for the people and what they did and when they were going crazy. We'd have temperature sensors on them. We'd have caps on their head. How is their brain working? What parts of their brain are lighting up, like getting into the James Fallon and neuroscience? We would record all that information and we dump it into a massive database to study. If I were an alien and my name was Timpak, and I wanted to start an Earth, I would make sure that I had some sort of sensor technology to record all the data, because else why am I doing it? It's for science. It's something that I'd want to record. And so theoretically, to me, it's plausible and makes a whole lot of sense that that database would be sitting somewhere. Call it the Akashic record if you want, call it whatever you want, call it an Oracle database, but we would have it. And I think if a creator created us and gave us a bit of DNA that allowed us to have brains that are similar to our creator's brain, then it would make sense that we would probably do the same thing. Eventually, we'd evolve to be kind of like it. And so he was tapping into this Akashic record thing. So I think it actually makes a whole lot of sense. The interesting thing about that, too, is that he said everybody can. And so I start to think, has any human beings done things that they did that no other humans could do? There are a lot of human beings that do things that no other humans can do. There are a lot of human beings that know things that other human beings don't know. You start looking at Nikola Tesla. You start thinking about Einstein. I think about some of these kids and people who say, oh, well, I can remember my past life. What if when they go to sleep, there's just this mycorrhizae, oh, it's not mycorrhizae, certain kind of fungi, it's not mycorrhizae though, that actually connected this brain pathway with this one that opens up and it connects with the pineal gland and just opens the third eye at nighttime. Just enough DMT gets in and you tap into that Akashic record and you tap into, oh, my previous life was this. I was a this in my previous life. I did this. And so I think it's all possible. And just when you go to sleep at night, every now and then you accidentally tap into this Akashic record thing. When I was a kid, I used to have, you ever had the deja vu? We're like, damn it, I've been here before. Every now and then it happened to me, but how is it possible that you see something you haven't done yet? Maybe it's in the Akashic record. Maybe all of this makes a whole lot of sense. So, all right, anyway. So that's who Edgar Casey was. I'm sorry, Rochelle, you sent me down a deep rabbit hole. But it makes a whole lot of sense. And he talked about Atlantis and the Atlantean and that ancient technology, which is why I think they don't tell us what's in these sites. They don't tell us till after they open them. Brother Joe, maybe people weren't as bad as we are now back then, and we're friends with aliens. Joe, that actually is what religion is. That's what all the religions, from what I can tell, but the vast majority, they all talk about they were friends with these creatures that came down and taught them how to do something, right? What's the brother's name from the Bible? Enoch, right? Taught them how to mathematics and everything. Took them up in the spaceship, showed them the galaxy. The Sumerians knew about all the planets. They knew where the planets were. You don't take your friends up in your spaceship unless they're your friends. If they're not your friends, maybe you take them up in a spaceship and you drop them, but you don't take them up and say, hey, this is Pluto, and Pluto is blue, and this is Saturn, and Saturn has rings. And the ancients knew all of that. How did they know all of that? Obviously, they had technology we were unaware of, or they were friends. And that was the other thing that this creature, God, aliens, whatever it may be, we drank too much beer, went to sleep. Whatever that creature is, it taught us about love. And that's my biggest critique of like a lot of the religions today. And they say, oh, religions get behind, they do the holy wars and murder a bunch of people. No, that's not religions. That's not religions. That's people who wear the religion button, lie, and hate their God, and off drone bombing people and crusading and killing people. They have nothing to do with those religions. So I agree with you, Brother Joe, because if you go back in history, these creatures were always trying to tell us to get along. They were always trying to bring us towards civilization. They were always talking about love your neighbor, give the shirt off your back, and do all these things. And so I totally agree. It makes perfectly good sense that they try to evolve us. Because if you have a science experience, if you got the biodome, do you want your people to go crazy? Do you want when everybody starts sleeping with everybody, otherwise getting in fights, killing each other, stabbing, making weapons? No. You want the experiment to go as long as possible. And so every now and then you go in there, oh, we got to pull John out. John, there's something wrong with John. He's not right in his head. We got to get him out of here. Tanisha flipping out. She want to kill Lisa because Lisa said this or whatever. But you would go in and you would teach her, no, you got to behave. You'd pull them out and counsel them. Give them a little counseling, psychological thing or whatever. Because you want the experiment to go. You didn't start the experiment just to watch it collapse and die. You want to kind of help it along. When you had an anthill as a kid, when the anthill started dying, you take a little piece of your Twinkie and drop it in the anthill. The ants don't like no carcinogen sugars, but they don't have no other choice. They're going to eat what Americans eat. They eat some carcinogen sugars and get cancer, and the ants will die early, but you want your experiment to go. What's that, Hannah? Hannah said, are you suggesting the Atlanteans are the central bankers? Ooh, I don't know. I think is that what people talk about when they talk about the Illuminati and that there's still control? And it's possible. It's possible. I believe that if there is one sort of advanced civilization that's driving life on this planet, this experiment, I think every now and then maybe another one shows up, And the same way our government controls us by giving us mainstream media, CNN and Fox and CSNBC and all these things to make us think that this is real, and guide what we know. I think that if there's a higher level civilization, they would do the same thing. I think they would guide us, and maybe a malevolent one say, you know what, we're going to create this thing called money. We're going to make a bank. We're going to create something called debt, and we're going to get them all into debt, and we're going to get them all to do what we want them to do. We want them to work for companies, spend their whole life not thinking about the ancient technology, but thinking about getting money from their neighbors. Getting more, collecting more, hoarding more so that other people can't have none. And they won't care nothing about starving. And it could be a joke. It could, Hannah, sister, it could just be a joke. It could be an alien that came here. You know what? Man, I'm sick of Jesus and them. Jesus and them always think they know everything. Man, I'm tired of Buddha and Allah and them. They always come to people's house drinking all of our elixir. You know what? I'm going to screw up their experiment. I'm going to create money. I'm going to make a bank. See what happens to their experiment. I don't know. But I know the banks ain't good people. I know that. The banks ain't good things. I know money ain't a good thing because look what it does to humanity, right? The gods of the Phoenicians, also kings of Atlantis. I don't know, Bajorn. I don't know. The gods of the Phoenicians, also kings of Atlantis. I don't know. So there's a really great area, right? Because what they talk about, if you go back to the Zechariah, Sitchin, and Sumerians and what they talked about, and even the Egyptians, and a lot of them, their first kings were gods, right? Their first kings, they all had wings and they flew and they had they had abilities that others didn't have. And I think it was Sitchin who talked about that eventually the aliens left or they died or whatever. They were the kings. And the humans took over that role. Like, no, I'm a king too. I can fly too. I just ain't going to show you. And I think they kind of took over. And so I think there's this merge between these ancient creatures that had this special abilities that actually brought all these human beings, these tribal Cro-Magnon things together, hunter-gatherers, and got them to make massive 25 million, people cities. If we could, and that's a good question, because if we couldn't get that together for thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and all of a sudden magically we get it together, all of a sudden magically we're not hunting for food, but we're building megaliths and pyramids and massive temples and talking about flying creatures, and we're actually developing language. Like all of this stuff happened overnight. So to me, it makes sense that if we magically started doing this stuff, we never did it in the past, that something happened. Hey, maybe it was some fungi, brother. I don't know, some microbiology, our brains just, the light came on. What is the stone ape theory, where the apes started, eating magic mushrooms or something, and that started making their brain work in different ways? It's possible too, but I think it actually is plausible that something started this off because we're hybrids of something else. Because we, unlike any other creature on this planet, we are pretty much useless to the age of 2, right? Think about the zebra and the rabbit and the monkey and everybody else. Their babies are born and like in 2 minutes to jump the hell up. Oh, damn it, it's a tiger on the way. Okay, I got to walk. The giraffe, they know how to take care of themselves within hours. But then you think about the human being, we're like goo to at least one. And we're fun goo. Don't get me wrong, I love me some babies. But we're like goo. We're like helpless and defenseless. It doesn't make sense to me that we evolved to be helpless at birth. It more sounds like we're a hybrid and we have to evolve to make this thing work. Like they talk about how the majority of births, without modern, technology and science, the majority of us in the past, when we were born, the majority of babies died. That's not an evolved creature. That's really dumb hybrid. That's a monkey and an alien or something trying to come together and learn how to work together, because our heads are even too big to get through the vaginal. Like that's why we do C-sections all the time. So I don't know, but I think it went from, I'm highly suspicious that we went from kings that were really powerful to kings that were just really sneaky and lying and presidents. Egyptian, all right, let me move down a little bit. I'm kind of high up in the comments. You guys are talking about stuff way down. Also found maize corn in ancient Egyptian paintings. Yet we are told the maize was only in South America. Yes, Brother Chuck. Yes, the maize corn. That's another one, just another example. They were here, the Egyptians in the South America, they were working together. They were talking. They were definitely on the same page. The Atlanteans went east and west since Atlantis was in the middle of the Atlantic. They could go in either direction. Notice the use of the alt prefix in modern Mayan word. Okay, like Quetzalcoatl. This important symbolism seems to be one remnant that their connection with the Atlantean civilization, which makes sense, Brother Carl. It's a little deeper than I've gone. But it makes sense, because there is that relationship, and I've heard that before, between language and usage, and even hieroglyphics, I guess the cuneiform, and just the idea of using symbols and drawing, like that makes sense. I saw something the other day, the massive paintings on the ground throughout South America, that they're starting to find them in different places. Where they had the monkey, and they took paths and they made massive drawings, and we didn't even know that these massive drawings were on the ground until we flew over them just recently, and we realized that the ancients made these massive pictures of birds and spiders and things on the ground, and nobody on the ground could actually tell what the hell it is. So these things link together from continent to continent to continent, that there's something else that's out there. A church is not a stairway to another world. Brother Bjorn said, a church is not a stairway to another world. I don't know. I find it interesting, the links between the discussions of ascension and spiritual. I got a lot of spiritual friends today, and the churches talk about that, and the Egyptians talked about that, and they say the Sumerians talked about that there's this ascension thing, that we do have this soul thing. I think there's some studies by some doctors or researchers who are saying that when we die, we lose a couple ounces, 6 pounds or something. It makes me think about near-death experiences where people, there was a whole bunch of them. I mean, there have been 100 books written on near-death experiences, probably thousands, but there was one that got me where the gentleman was dying, And the doctor got on top of him and was like administering CPR and brought him back. And then he mentioned that after he was conscious, he was like, "Yeah, well, thanks, thank you, doc. Got on top of me, saved my life." And the doctor said, "You were dead. How did you know I was on top of you?" He said, "Because I was in the room watching you." And that's where I think a lot of the mainstream doctors and scientists started getting interested in that. So is ascension a thing? Are we spirits? Do we have a soul? I tend to think so. Never seen it, but I tend to think, because that is actually, I come out of the Christian faith, not out of it, I'm still in it, but I think it's true. I don't think that the Bible is the actual word of God. I don't. I know that'll get me in trouble with a lot of my friends. I don't. I think they are words that our ancients wrote down, like the words our ancients wrote down in all these religions. And I think when the kings took over, when the humans took over being kings and queens, and the humans took over these religions and all of that, they put their own spins to them, right? They made them their own little mechanisms for control. They brought us to this time where it was all about love and taking care of each other. It makes sense to go rob a neighbor, steal some oil, steal some zircon and some minerals. So that actually, it makes a lot of sense to me. And brings us to modern times where people actually think that any president or prime minister actually could be murdering a bunch of children, killing millions, if not thousands of people in a war, and actually know a God, right? Like, I think we went through this transition of this thing trying to teach us how to love, to human beings teaching us it's okay not to love and to murder and steal and kill, which is why I think you have things like the 10 Commandments. Why is the 10 Commandments so important? Whether or not it was a burning acacia bush and he was hallucinating, the point is it's the basis of your religion. And if you're not supposed to hurt people, you're supposed to take care of people and love people. And I think I think it's true. I think it was like an Edgar Casey type of thing, and that these rules are all anti-profit. These 10 Commandments are all anti-kill. They're all pro-love. And so if I were doing the experiment and I was looking at the ants like, oh, damn it, man, they starting to kill each other. If I could send down 10 Commandments to like show them that the human beings that took over my religion are lying and you're not supposed to be murdering people, I would send down the commandments. Because that actually makes a lot of sense in guiding the experiment, to let those who can read, those who don't go to church just for the Holy Ghost, but go to church and actually pay a damn attention, those who go to the temple and they actually know why they're at the temple, that you're not supposed to be supporting these leaders, that they are the Pharisees and the Sadducees. All right, I don't want to get too deep down the religion path. But anyway, that's what I was thinking on that one. Elizabeth said there's nothing new under the sun. I agree with you. I think you're right. And I think we get clicks back to the past. I think that's what a lot of Hollywood and Nollywood and Bollywood is you go to sleep and you wake up and like, oh, here's a good story. And you write it down, you call it Stargate, and you make a movie. But really, you were just getting insight into the past, or perhaps a past life, or you tapped into that Akashic record. And so I think a lot of these stories that come in the movies, they're actually us just from the past and remembering some things that we knew or had, and they make a movie out of it. All right, let me shoot down a bit. June said meditation is amazing. Yes, and I meditate every now and then, June. I don't know that I'm good at it. I know that I feel good. I've never, that I know, have been to the Akashic record. If I did, I didn't look up nothing. So, I do meditate. But I have a lot of friends who spend a lot of time meditating. In fact, to me, it's important. If you've been doing this thing for a long time, like I pay attention and I listen to you. Right? I'm not the type to tell you that I know anything, right? I think that there is something to meditation because all of our ancients did it, all the religions say to do it, and even now modern science is saying that the responses in our immune system and the changes in cell activity when we meditate. So it's something there. Don't know what it is, but there's something there. Let me see. Good morning, Terry. How you doing? Good morning, Jennifer. People still coming in the house. We talk through time. We are always talking to ourselves. Yeah, well, I talk to myself a lot. It's right here, right now, okay? The Essenes look at the stars. Yes, Lois. Everyone looked at the stars. They all looked up at the stars. And that's why I think something came out of the stars, because it kind of makes sense. Why would they look up and not look down? Like, they're always looking up and they're waiting for these things, whatever they knew from the past, they're waiting for them to come back. The Dogon tribe knew about the cosmos without having any technology. Yes, Rochelle. Thank you, Rochelle. And that kind of is my point. So you got all these different cultures who knew what's up there. They didn't have telescopes. Like, that alone tells you. We talked about a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the Perry-Reese map. If you're new to all of this, look at the Perry-Reese map. They knew what Antarctica looked like without ice. They had the maps. How do you know what Antarctica looks like without ice if we've been here the whole damn time and had some ice? It's obvious that we either been up or something that was up came down and we had a conversation. I totally agree. I often have clear visions just as I'm going to sleep. Knew I was tapping into something, but didn't know it could have been a previous life. Sharon, yes, Sharon. Could be, Sharon. You know what? And Sharon, this is why, another reason why. I know I like to say this is why. I don't know why, but this is why. Another reason why I think we do need to focus on the ancients and the wisdom that they had in spirituality and tapping into these things. Because what if you are Edgar Casey? Like, Sharon, what if you were the next Edgar Casey? What if you were the next person to show and prove to us that there's something greater than all of this nonsense we're tied up in, right? I kind of think that when more people are focused in that direction and are thinking about spirituality and meditation and what the ancients knew, that if you actually have that ability, if your brain is just like wired that way, or you can tap into that Akashic record, or you are a Jesus, or you are, someone who can figure these things out, like, you're a gift. You're definitely a gift to the planet and to this experiment, this colony, this ant civilization, to remind us and to show us, to be what do they say in the Bible? They talk about spiritual gifts, and that there's certain gifts that different people have to be is it perfecting of the saints or something like that, the way it's worded. But there are certain people who have these abilities, and they're reminders to us that life isn't about oil. Life isn't about robbing your neighbor. Life isn't about these governments. There's so much more than what we are. And we got to get back on track with where our ancients were and stop fighting over these little cushy, hoarding, self-focused lives. So I think it's important, Sharon, that everybody focus on that. Because I know I go to sleep at night sometimes, Sharon. I go to sleep. I close my eyes. I hope I'm. I want to be in the Akashic record so bad. I have not been there yet. I want to see some lights and lines. It's important, I think, that people pay attention and look at what Edgar Casey talked about, what the Akashic record looks like. He said it was, there was a light, and he followed the light, and he saw robed creatures going up and down, and that's how he knew he was going to the Akashic record. But, because you might see it, don't go the wrong way. No, go back the other way. You need to know which way to go in case you do have those abilities. I thought I saw a light once. It was because a grow light cut on. I grow plants. I got them all in my bedroom. But so I think people need to focus on that. Brother Bjorn said, I'm planning a biodome on the farm in Norway and a seed vault. Yeah, and we do need the biodomes, and we know we need the seed vaults. We know those cataclysms always come, and I think we are getting close to one now because our leaders are all acting crazy as all hell. We got to get back to sustainability and preparing for the hard times, which gets you down to the theories of the Ark, right? The Ark and what people discovered with the Ark, and the multiple cultures going back to Gilgamesh, and the newly discovered ones who talked about putting all the animals on some sort of an ark. Maybe that was a Vimana. I don't know. Could make some sense. I know I'm missing a lot of comments. All I know is that we have been lied to. I just want to know why. Thank you, Brother Donnell. You and I, we always right there. We just right there. Because I don't, I think it's a fun topic, but they're lying. They're always lying. They're always trying to control us. And the big question is, why? What is so interesting? What is so powerfully profit denying, power denying, that every government all of this planet they're constantly trying to lie and control their people. And you can't convince me that it's for a treasure chest of gold. I don't think gold is that interesting. I don't think the money is that. I don't think that they go to the lengths they do for money. They go to the lengths they do because there's so much more out there than what we understand. You know what? Let me show you this. I'm going to go on over here. I try to look at the comments. Oh, this was a fun one. We talked about this one right here. They didn't find, guess where that? I forgot the name of these, but they found them in Africa. No, they didn't. That's an obvious African nose. Where they find that? They found that in South America. These are all over South America. They got African people all over South America. Why is that? Cheddar Man. We talked about Cheddar Man this week. They done found Cheddar Man, and they researched his DNA. He had black skin, but he had blue eyes and long, stringy hair. What does that tell you? That we migrated all over this planet. But we migrated perhaps a lot sooner than what people think we did. And so that's it. But I forgot that somebody will post the name of them. But they found those statues all over South America. And so now imagine what's happening right now. Imagine with LIDAR right now, all these different statues that they could be finding and uncovering. And then okay, religion we're talking about Vimanas. And so you go back even in religions, they drew pictures of the Vimanas, you know, the Christian faith. And back to South America, they had the little spaceship. You know, they always drew these pictures of these whatever they saw. Oh, you know what? The other thing about LIDAR, the Monkey City. Y'all remember the Monkey City? Going back was about 10 years ago, where they found I know it's in my files. I always got all these files. The Monkey City. Well, it wasn't the Monkey City, but they found this city in Honduras, I believe it was. Honduras. And I think it's right here. This is the first time they used, I think this was his picture. This is the first time they used LIDAR technology, where they found this city, and it was between a couple mountains, right? It was a plateau area between mountains that was hard to get to. There was only one path in, and they found all of these different cities. If you look on YouTube, you'll find it. If not, I'll put a link out there if you want to see it. But this is the first time they used LIDAR, and they found this city, and they started researching it. I think they had like 11 scientists down there, and then there was some sort of bacteria that was, I don't know if it was one of the mosquitoes or an insect that bit them, and like the 11 scientists, they almost died when they got back because it was like a flesh-eating bacteria. So I don't know that they went back, but that was another use of LIDAR. So it's phenomenal technology, but it's interesting to see all the cultures that have been around. And we talked about a circumnavigating and pyramids being all over. Pyramids are everywhere. They're all over the planet. All right, let me keep going down. I missed a whole bunch of, Jimmy said Facebook is now blocking you. I don't know if they are. I hope they're not. Am I? I think a lot of my friends on Facebook can see me. You know, but oh, you mean last week? Yeah, they did. But I won't go through that. I'm done with that. I'm not mad at that. It's not Facebook that did it. That was me. Like I said, I used to vote Democrat and Republican, and they hate the internet. They want to control it, right? They want to control the message, and so that's the same thing. You know, but that's just the world we live in. You know, our leaders are always going to lie to us, and if we vote for leaders and from political parties that always lie to us, then they're going to keep trying to cover this stuff up and hide it. The 10 Commandments are similar to the Egyptian Mattis. Thank you, Rochelle. I have to research that. I don't know anything about the Egyptian Mattis, but it makes sense that we have these rules, and it makes sense that those rules go down to different cultures and continents, especially the big ones, so that the experiment doesn't kill itself. Makes perfectly good sense. I have to research that one. It would be a beautiful thing if religious groups and discussions such as this. Oh, it's a beautiful thing if religious groups had discussions like this. Thank you, Sandra. It would be. The problem is there's no profit in it, right? There's nobody making money telling the truth. There's no money in the truth. And so most religions, they don't tell the truth. I think you find little groups here and there that are open enough to be wrong. I think that there are governments, very little ones, the Republic of Nowhere, and they're okay because their military is only 10 people strong and they got half a tank that was left by the Russians. They might want to tell the truth too, but there's no profit in the truth. You don't make massive money on tithes telling the truth. You make massive money on ties telling whatever you're told to tell them. So I think that's our biggest problem is we don't talk about the truth. But so we can have these discussions until they finally shut the internet down. People can talk about this stuff. And so we should be talking about this stuff. And we shouldn't look at people like they're crazy when they say stuff we don't understand or we don't believe. Like, I got a lot of flat earth friends, okay? I don't think they're crazy. I don't, because I've never been off the planet. You know, I think it's a stretch that the planet's flat, but I don't laugh at them. I don't mock them. I'd say it's not plausible and I smile, you know, but I don't put people down for what they believe because I've never been there, you know? And I think that's how you have a conversation is you don't push someone to a place where they're so emotionally upset with you that they won't have a discussion. And so, like, I want to look at the details of flat earth, and they gave me the details of flat earth. And I said, that's really interesting. Some of it's very compelling, but I personally don't believe it. But if the aliens took me up in the spaceship today and I looked down and I saw the earth was flat and it was on the back of some turtles or something, I'd be like, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, dang, Julian was right. Damn, look at that. It's just flat as can be. Oh my God. You know, but this is what Donnell mentioned before is that we know this is all some lies. And so we shouldn't be surprised by anything. You know, the news comes out, people are surprised and bad things happen. We shouldn't be surprised. We know how crazy all of this stuff is. And when you know that everything is a lie, then why in the world would you be so surprised? So here's a picture right here. I said I was going to show you the picture. I'm going to show you the picture. This is a picture I posted. So this was a Sumerian engraving. I think I got the actual tablet. And I was asking my friends, I said, well, what does that look like to you? Right? Because I think that the ancients, they would carve this stuff out to pass a message down, you know, to let the future know what the hell we saw. And this was the picture. And so a lot of people came back. Somebody said it looked like he had a cat on his head and he went in the mirror and looked in the mirror. The cat looked smaller and somebody thought it was a tea kettle or whatever. I laugh at it. I think it's funny. But it's serious too. You know, what were the ancients trying to communicate to us? Another image I came across, I'll tell you what it looks like to me. To me, it does look like some sort of technology, right? It does look like there's some sort of a Stargate. You know, I think everything in that image is important. I don't know what they mean, but I think they're important. I think that the fanny packs are important. See the brothers, the brothers hold the technology with the fanny packs. I think the fanny packs are important. We talked about the man bags a couple of weeks ago where, you know, you have all over the planet, these cultures drew these pictures of these creatures with man bags. What the hell was in the man bag? You know, why are these men walking around with purses? There was something, or it was technology, and the ancients thought it was important enough to make a stone carving of it, and there were multiples all over the planet. So I don't know. I think it could be a Stargate. It's plausible. You know, one of the debates about the whole UFO alien thing is that you know, the space is so vast that we couldn't possibly make it to another planet. It just don't make no damn sense. To me, that's not an argument. That's not, because there was a time we lived our whole life in a town because it was just too vast to go to another town, too far. You got to walk for 10 days to get to the next town. I'm never going there. My grandfather went there. And then we developed wheels and carts and we started going to the next town. Yeah, but I'm not going to the other side of the continent. That's just too damn far. It's just, we'll never make technology to get there. Then we did that, you know? And then, oh, well, to go to another continent, that'll just never happen. It just couldn't be possible. And then we did that, right? And so the whole discussion in space, oh, it's too vast. We'll never get a probe to the moon. Got a probe to the moon. Oh, but Pluto's just too damn far. We'll never get anything. Got something out that far. Now we're out by the Kuiper Belt. So it's just, we always get there. So the idea that a species that's 1 billion years older than us, could it have gotten here? Hell yeah, it could have. But more possible, I think, from how my mind works, I think, see, I know I used to watch the TV show Stargate. Watch Stargate. Stargate a blush. I love Stargate, but you got to start with the original Stargate. Start with the movie and then watch Stargate SG-1. I loved it. But I think that the Stargates were real. I think it's possible. I think that why would you want to fly through space and build ships and carry all of this crap if you can make a fax machine and fax somebody, right? To me, it's plausible. It makes sense. And why is it plausible from a scientific perspective? I forgot the name of the doctor. I know we always talked about something a few weeks ago, but all of this kind of, it adds up and it all sticks together. The doctor who recorded the DNA into water. He was showing that water has memory, and he recorded the water. He recorded the DNA, some sort of DNA signature, the electromagnetic signature in water, and transferred it to that university in France. And they somehow played it back over this beaker with base elements, and DNA reconstructed itself supposedly the same way it was from that doctor. And he was an HIV doctor. He was a doctor who discovered HIV, and it supposedly had the same DNA that was in the lab in America from that doctor's lab. So the idea that we can fax DNA through some sort of a digital format, that is true. And so is it a stretch from faxing a person from planet to planet? I don't think that's a stretch. It's just a little missing piece of technology. That's all it is, which is why it's important that the little girl who might be able to make that technology, if we get her in the right university and we don't kill her with a drone because she grew up in the Middle East, because y'all want some damn oil, we don't kill that little girl, because that little girl might make that little piece of technology, that understanding in how to fax biological life. And you tag it up with that doctor and that university, and the next thing you know, we're faxing human beings to Mars. We're faxing supplies. We don't have to carry them in ships. You know, human civilization is all about working together, which is what I think the 10 Commandments were about, which is what I think all of us about, is we have to work together, but we shouldn't be murdering and killing people, which is why Monday through Friday we talk about don't murder people. It's the Don't Murder People show, because you don't know who given the right. You know what? If I were this alien that made this planet and made y'all and all of this, I actually would send the Einsteins and the Teslas down to the places you're bombing. I would do it intentionally. I would intentionally send the savants to the places that you are okay to kill people because you think they're dogs, because you don't care nothing about your religion. I would do that because I told you better. I told you so. I gave you the religion. I said, don't murder, thou shalt not murder. And if you were okay because you like Prince Saudi or whatever his name is, you like the president, you like the last president, whatever, I would send the Teslas and the Edgar Caseys down to the place, to the poorest populations. And did that not already happen with Jesus? Where did he come from? Look at some of our greats like Edgar Allan Poe and all of these people who were born in poverty and died in poverty. I would send the smartest people to the poorest places just to remind you that you're dumb. And I would give you a chance to kill all yourselves because you keep getting behind these. Anyway, I don't want to get into the public, politics stuff. I don't like no politics. I have to say I've never bored with your talks. It's always interesting and thought-provoking. Thank you, Sister Lisa. I appreciate it. I don't know that I like my talks. I think I'm crazy as all hell because none of this makes any sense to me. Like, it's just, it all comes together and I get links and y'all send me stuff and I start going down these rabbit holes. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't believe this, you know? So I appreciate it. No, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm trying to get a little organized. I'm trying to put episode numbers and stuff so people can go back and refer to stuff. I'd love to get to a place where we can talk about something, new evidence, information comes out, we can stitch it together and perfect it and fix it so it's like true. Which is why we got to have the brother Bjorns on the thread, you know, who were kind of bring the, well, let's bring everything back. Let's not go too far down there. Alien took my baby. Alien had my baby. Is the Egyptian hieroglyph that looked like the submarine, the airplane, and the UFO. Come to find out, that is not true. It's not true. It's not true. I don't know that I got a picture. You know what? Let me see if I can pull a picture up of it. You know what I'm talking about? In Egypt, they found the hieroglyph. It looked like a UFO and submarine and airplane. And of course, I loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is crazy. They done told us about the future. Turns out that's not true. Not true. Which is why we got to be honest and we got to keep it legitimate. Oh, no, it didn't come up. Hold on. The Egyptian, well, what they found out is apparently in the temple that it was, the temple that they found the hieroglyph, oh, here it goes. Everything they did, it mimicked. Let me see if I can show this to you. Everything that they did, it mimicked on the other side of the temple. on the inside of the temple. And apparently, while the person who took, I'll post the video if you want to see it. Don't get mad at me. I like the truth. I don't like to get excited about some lies. That actually was two different hieroglyphs. That what they would end up doing is they had a hieroglyph underneath and they had one over top, and the first layer broke and fell down, and it kind of looks that way, but it's not what it is. There was a discussion of it, and they were kind of explaining it. And on the other side of the temple, on the inside, they actually had the correct hieroglyph, which looked nothing like this. And it has a name. I forgot the name of it. I'll post it. But it's important that we be honest. I mean, I personally, I want that to be a UFO. I want that to be a Star Wars desert slider, and I want that to be a helicopter, but they're not, right? So that one was kind of clarified. So we got to have the truth. And so that's what I want to do, Lisa, down the road, is be able to do like post follow-ups, but this is not what it appears to be. And in fact, the lady who took the picture, it might have been, no, I don't know if it was Brian Forrester or if it was John Anthony West. I forgot who it was. He said he was actually there when the lady took the picture because they were talking about it. But it was very clear that on the other side of the temple, it wasn't the same hieroglyph. So we got to be honest and we got to be truthful. Looks like a stairway with energy surrounding the entrance. Yeah, looks like a stairway with energy surrounding the entrance. Could be. It does look like a stairway. You know, and that's why I like to look at this stuff and I try to think about it, like what possibly could they be trying to tell us? It could be a stairway. Maybe that's the stairway to heaven. I don't know. Maybe that's 3 bars. And if you find 3 bars, you got to lay them down and that'll let you into the Akashic record. But you got to stand in front of the mirror with 2 guys with fanny packs. Otherwise, you don't actually get it in tune. But I think everything in that image, oh, let me show you something. Everything in that image has a purpose. There was another one. Ooh. I got all excited. I get all excited. Like a dog sometimes. I get excited about stuff by myself and I start wagging my tail. Like, oh, I got to look at this. Look at this. This was another one. So this was a slightly different one, but it had the same image. I can't put them next to each other. Let me shrink this one. But this was another one that was very similar, where you've got the same picture right there. You got the 2 guys with the fanny packs. They still got their fanny pack because the fanny pack is important. Y'all don't throw away your fanny packs. And they're holding this bar or thing, but you can see it looks more like not just a bar, but it's something. It's a structure. It's some sort of technology or something. And he's in there, and he's on some steps or some stones. He's stepping up too, so that's there too. They got stars. Well, no, that's not stars. This looks like that's probably some writing. But he got some heat coming off of him. So he got some heat. So when you go to the other dimension, it's a little hot. You get a little hot and you get hot in a hot tub, you know, or maybe he stink. I don't know. Maybe it's funky. Maybe in order to get to the Akashic record, you got to be a little funky. You have to, you know, you can't bathe for a couple of days because you can't have you can't have chlorine and fluoride on your skin in order to go into the dimension. So you got to be a little funky. And the ancients were trying to, all right, I know I'm being, but I thought this was interesting. So this was another image of it. Which I thought was really, really highly interesting. What else are y'all talking about? Use astral projection. Teresa, ooh, astral projection. That's a delicious topic too. Y'all ever want to get into another delicious, interesting, I'm not going to call it conspiracy theory because I don't like the word conspiracy theory. I hate that because the CIA, they invented it, and that's everything they say. I just say it's the wrong thing to say. You're just some fools. You're dumb. You're stupid. You're crazy. You started the war on drugs. You got a lot of people killed, unless they want to shut off my broadcast. Then I say, nah, I love the CIA. They some nice people. They're good people, y'all. They just, their leadership is bad. And we need to break them up, put them in different states. So, astral projection, right. So, there are a couple people. This gets back to that CIA project, which is why I'm not so mad at the CIA, because you got whistleblowers who come out and they talk about how they can astrally project. And so they can actually go places when they meditate and see things in other places. And only certain people can do it. I know that the CIA studied, so one of my friends will post the name of it if you guys want to look into it. but where they actually were looking like at the dark side of the moon, and they were looking at like Saturn and Mars and like different places, but mostly they were obviously using it because they wanted to look at Russia. They wanted to see what was happening in Russia, who was, who has what, where, how. And so it was a military industrial complex thing, but it was a project to get people who could astrally project to tell them what was there, and that they have evidence going back to, I want to say it was like World War I and World War II, where they actually had astrally projecting spies who were like feeding information to government, that it actually really is a thing, which is really no different than what Edgar Casey talked about, no different than what Jesus talked about. It's no different than, I think Nikola Tesla was in that crowd too, right? He would go to sleep and wake up and he would know things in different places and things that he shouldn't know. Edgar Casey knew that there was under the paw of the Sphinx was I think he said the Hall of Records was there, and they didn't know anything was there at the time. Come to find out, yep, there's a whole bunch of stuff there, and they dug it up. Then there was that kid in Russia who said there's a device behind the ear of the Sphinx that would be used to activate the Sphinx, that the Sphinx was somehow technology or something. And that was interesting. I forgot his name. What was that called? The children. I forgot the name of it, but he talked about they were children of something. They were certain kind of children. He said he was from Mars, and there was a whole bunch of them like him down here. I forgot the name of it. But all of that astral projection, spiritual stuff, like it was all, along that same remote viewing. Thank you, Rochelle. That the military uses it, which is why the government can't have any secrets. I sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna say it a million times over till people get it. Till I die. Before I die, I'm gonna say the government should have body cameras. They all should have body cameras. There can't be any secrets, because you imagine what you could use this stuff for if we actually allowed the public to study it. And we figured out that this stuff isn't crazy like fax machines, that we actually could astrally project, and that doctors could do it, and they could see and know what's going on before they got to an accident scene, so they could get ready and prepared to save someone's life. Like, all of this is important. Somebody's drowning and you can see it, and you can send a drone over to rescue them. All of this technology can be utilized for humanity, or it can be utilized to make a lot of money and murder people and home invade them and build pipelines in their country, and just dumb stuff. So it's called remote viewing. So I found that to be interesting. There was definitely technology in the past that we didn't know anything about. Here's another one. I don't know what any of it is, but I definitely don't. I don't have an idea. This I found to be interesting because of Stargate, Stargate. Hollywood Stargate, because it's round. It's round. Everybody who watched the movie, it's round. Stop it. But there are a lot of interesting things in that one, in terms of, one, they talk about how the kings, the ancient kings, the gods in the film, the Anunnaki, they were so tall. They were these monstrously tall people. You don't believe in giants. I don't know, something wrong with you. Every culture talks about giants on every single continent. But they did these pictures intentionally to remind us, because, again, you etch it in stone, you can't just erase it. You don't have erasers. Once it's done, it's done. So everything in there has meaning. So I think it has meaning that this god, this king, whatever, is so daggone big. I think this was Anu, if I'm not mistaken, that the gods were that tall. And the Bible talked about that within the film, and how the angels came down to breed with men, and some of them would end up being 14 feet tall and just massive. But anyway, so that he's giving them the Stargate, or he's showing the little people, the human beings, the little hybrids, how to use the Stargate. Maybe, I don't know. Could just be a star dish. Man, it could be lunch. Could be a plate, They got delicious vegan desserts on the plate, So I thought that was interesting. Oh, so CERN, somebody posted on CERN. So CERN, crazy, scary, crippled, I don't know, is Higgs boson. Higgs boson. So they posted that thing on the website a few months back, that they were trying to open a portal, that they discovered if they can create this reaction, that they're going to open some sort of portal. That scares the hell out of me. It does. If you ever watched the movie The Mist, this is why it scares me. On The Mist, I guess, I don't know. Sometimes I think they make these movies to let us know that our government's messing with technology they shouldn't be. But it's a TV show now. It's a TV show and there's a movie, The Mist, where they have they open a portal to another place. And when they open that portal, really bad things happen. Things from other dimensions come through. Like there was a good documentary on I forgot who did it. I don't know if it was Nova, National Geographic, but what they did is they talked about what alien life would look like on other planets, right? Like how it would evolve different legs, and probably most of them would be arachnids, maybe because it's the most predominant shape on Earth. Like obviously, most creatures on Earth are arachnids. Most multicellular creatures, they are arachnids, and so ants and spiders and whatever. That most likely alien life looks like that. If opening a portal, a dimension, whatever, odds are it would look something crazy like that. That's a scary thing to me. The TV show was good, so the movie, I don't want to spoil it. I have to spoil it a little bit. So it was just about the government was playing with this CERN type technology, colliding particles, and they figured out how to open a portal to another dimension. And that dimension was like, oh, damn, the humans done opened up a portal. And they started coming through, eating on us, chewing us, killing us, all kind of crazy stuff. They decided that I think their atmosphere was coming through, which is why it was called the mist. And so they couldn't live in our atmosphere, so the mist was coming through, and all of these creatures were coming through, eating, killing, chewing on human beings and stuff. I don't think that we should be messing with stuff like that. That's why I don't think that there should be any secrecy. I don't know if any of it's true. You know, I don't know if it's possible, but every culture talked about these stargates, and maybe the stargates are, you know, colliding together atoms and creating portals. It's possible. There's someone on YouTube who's talking about it. I don't, you know, but I'm going back to, I think this is an Indian god. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But they talked about it in the Sanskrit text as well, that these portals were real, that these creatures came through these portals. And maybe, well, it was us in the future coming back through the time machine. I don't know. But, and then in Africa, they talked about the Stargate. So there was even African cultures who talked about Stargates. You guys should do a search for Stargate. And then there were all these structures that don't make any sense. They were gates to nowhere. The South, you know, they did them all throughout South America where you had gates that didn't go anywhere. You had doors and nothing behind. Would you sit there and carve was it Chichen Itza that had the gate? What is the name of the, hold on, let me go. Somewhere in South America, they had the gate. And it was just like this big stone carving of a gate. Why in the hell would you take... Again, hey baby, listen, I'm not gonna go get no food today. I'm gonna go carve a gate, and I'll be back in a couple months. Okay, y'all, I don't know what y'all gonna eat. They're gonna sit there and carve a gate out of stone, call it the Stargate, and it goes nowhere. No, I think there's something to that. Anyway, I'm off. What are y'all talking about? I'm off, and could be the star's energy. Could be. Maybe the energy of a star opens a Stargate. I don't know. It's possible. Maybe it does fracture these dimensions. Could make sense. The government searches the public schools for clairvoyance and indoctrinate the children when identified for their service. Jimmy, I don't like that. I don't like that. With me, my mainstay, don't mess with no kids, man. You do what you want. Don't mess with no kids. I think I'm not going to deny that one. I mean, first of all, I don't know, but it would make sense. It would make sense that if you were trying to find these creatures, these human beings that had these abilities, whether it's evolution, it's modifying our brains to becoming this next level thing, or if it's we're a hybrid species and this alien god, whatever thing is coming down and moving us forward. Shiva, thank you. His name is Shiva. They're giving us, you know, these special human beings that can do things. It makes sense that the government would go to schools to find them. That makes a lot of sense that you would go get them at a young age, put them somewhere, and figure out how to use their ability to go do something bad to somebody else and steal their oil. That makes sense to me. We project a big dada in the sky, a big dada in the sky, study psychology to understand why. Brother Bajorn, and I think that's true too. I think it makes sense. It's plausible that if God didn't exist, it would make sense for people to invent a God. And because we always like to feel safe that something's in control. And I get that. And to me, that makes perfectly good sense. What doesn't make sense as all the other corroborating information, right? Like when you get a whole bunch of human beings that are talking about all this stuff going back to the cavemen, then I think that it makes sense that we would invent a God if we didn't already have one. But I think from a creation perspective, that story has already been told. There are thousands of human beings going back again to the ancient times that disagree with modern the psychological studies to show that we would invent a God. It's more plausible to me that we're on this little planet in this massive universe full of planets, where there are more Earth-like planets than grains of sand on all the beaches all over the planet. And in that being true, it makes no sense that we're alone. And it's more plausible to me that we would, in our own little head, want to be alone because we would be too scared of what possibly could be out there, and that we would develop some sort of psychosis because we're so great. We're the only thing, you know, and I think that that actually makes more sense because we see a lot of that today in terms of people who are self-centered. I think we're a self-centered species, and that partially is what holds us back. Oh, Steve, brother Steve came with the upside down. Yeah, the upside down. What TV show is that? The Demogorgon. They're gonna open up a portal to the upside down. Stranger Things. That's another good one, y'all. If you don't watch Netflix, there's a show called Stranger Things. Yeah, Stranger Things. That's awesome. It's off the hook. It talked about not government. Government always doing the gooberment. The gooberment's always up to something stupid. They opened a portal and they robbed a kid. They robbed a kid. They took a kid, Jimmy. They took the kid, and at a young age, she had this ability to tap into the upside down, which was another dimension, which was weird, right? And I won't do the spoiler alert, but it was great. Government, thank you, Steve. The government can't hide no secrets. The Demogorgon. I mess with no. You know, but the problem with that, Steve, is we're not gonna have no little girl that's gonna defend us from the Demogorgon. It's gonna eat us all. It's gonna take. We're too stupid. One of my bases and everything I talk about, we're dumb. We're dumb. Oh, we're dumb. We're dumb. And it shouldn't be depressing. Knowing the truth ain't depressing. Every 10 years or so, we figure out how dumb we actually are. No, we don't. Never mind. We figure out how dumb we thought we were. we figure out how dumb we were at that time when we thought we were smart. And so every 10 years, we're getting dumber and dumber and dumber. Science has proven that we just going to just depressive levels that we just don't know anything about our bodies, the planet, the natural world, or anything, or space. And I accept that. I accept that we stupid. That's why I don't get on a podium to say I know any damn thing. I don't. I want to know some things. In order to know something, you got to know how dumb you are initially in something. And if we get all our collective dumbness to, to tell us what we shouldn't believe in, then we start getting pushed in the directions of some things that might be true, things that we should believe in. Great show, great series. Why does Hollywood always make extraterrestrials as they are spider-looking things? I think they are more human-like than spiders. Rebecca, and I'm with you on that. If there is some sort of species flying around, starting little colonies in anthills, giving them some of its DNA, I think those creatures are gonna, if I did it, I would do it because I want my creations to have sentient thought, right? I want them to have a brain like I do. I think I'd probably be flying around looking at all these planets where intelligent life doesn't evolve, and I would want intelligent life to evolve there. But if we look at the natural world and how microbiology exists and how it all evolves together on a planet based on the particular types of flavor of physics on that planet based on that sun and the gravity and the minerals and everything that the asteroids had put on that planet, it's going to develop life that can thrive on that planet. And if you evolved on another planet, you're probably not going to be able to live there. You know, you'll die. What is the evidence of that? It's like if you're from Europe and you go to Mexico and you just walk up to the water and say, oh, that water looks delicious in the stream, and you drink it. You'll get sick because your body doesn't have the ability to deal with the microbiology, the bacteria that's in that water. It didn't evolve that. It had the ability to deal with what's in your place. So I think everything works together on the micro and the macro scale, which is in outer space. Whatever evolves on another planet, it's probably not going to look like us. There was that documentary I was talking about. I think it was called something about alien life, what alien life looks like. And they were just going through the theories of what alien life could look like on a planet that's larger, that has heavier gravity. They may not have 2 legs. Most of the creatures may not have 4. They may have 8 legs, right? Because gravity is so strong and they need the extra strong muscle structure to kind of stay up and walk. And so monkeys may not develop on that planet, or if they do, they develop with multiple legs. But if I'm flying around and I want to give a being intelligence, I'm going to take something that already exists well in that environment and I'm going to give it my brains. I don't care what it looks like. I just want it to be smart, maybe because this is a video game, it's a project, it's fun for me. And that's why I would do that. So I think a lot of the creatures may look like us because we are us. And if we are us, then we know our us environment, our gravity, our makeup, whatever, is probably pretty prolific around the universe. So a lot of them will look like us. But then there will be those who won't, right? There'll be Venus, where they evolved to look completely different because they got to deal with the fact that they live on a molten planet. So who knows what we could look like? Who knows what they could look like? But anyway, that's what I was thinking about that. I would give them a little piece of my DNA, but I think most of them would probably look human, you know. And so I think someone mentioned, you know, God said he made man in his own image, which could make sense too, you know. But the other interesting thing I think is interesting is how you couldn't make any graven images of Christ, right? He said you can't make any graven images. And I always wonder why that is. Somebody said because he looked like an alien, or he looked a little different, or we would, he didn't want us to know in the future what he looked like or what God looked like, because if we did, then we would worship anything that looked like that. You know how that racist thing where you look at, I don't know, look at Asian people, you think they all look alike because you're not used to looking at Asian people. Look at black people, think they all, or you look at white people, think they all look alike because you're not used to looking at the people who look like that, or aboriginals. It's kind of the same thing, I think. If an alien showed up and it's an alien gray, and if Jesus looked like that or God looked like that, we wouldn't know that that's not Jesus. That's his evil twin, Trebezus. And he's up to some dastardly things. But we'd worship him anyway. We do everything he said because hey, that's Jesus. No, it's not you. No, and every black person doesn't look like Eddie Murphy neither. Every Chinese person, every Asian person doesn't look like Bruce Lee. So I you know, to me that makes sense. So let me keep going down, and I'm gonna have to get out of here. I only had a little bit to talk about this stuff today. I know I hadn't talked about crazy stuff on the weekends in a while, but I had to get back to it. This is too much fun. Let me go down to the bottom comments, last couple ones. Shiva, the cosmic dancer, symbolic of the universe itself. Could be that Shiva is symbolic of the universe, or could be Shiva was a real creature that came down, that developed on a planet that had 6 legs or 8 legs. And when the creature gave it its hybrid, made it a hybrid, it's the genetic engineers, God thing, gave it its brains, it stood up and it started walking, but it had all those extra arms. Could be. That's why, you know, I took it down. Could be that all those extra arms came from the fact that it evolved on a planet that required those extra arms. Maybe it had blue skin because it evolved the ability to do photosynthesis with its skin, and its star is a hue in the bluish spectrum. I don't know. Could be. Yes, thank you, Jennifer. This is the statue right here she's talking about. It's at the CERN entrance, which has brought the theory up. But also the people at CERN are known for their jokes. So they like to they like to send out things to get people thinking down the wrong pathway. But then again, maybe they like to send out things because it's true. And so to let us know down the road, 20 years when they destroy the planet and gas is coming through the gate and upside down is here and demogorgons are eating and chewing on people. The Stargate's left stuck open because the dumb humans didn't know how to close it. They didn't think about that before they opened the damn thing. We all dying. At CERN, they can say, you know what? We done told y'all. We done put the statue right out front and we showed you that this is technology we don't understand and y'all didn't stop us. So damn it, you just gonna be demogorgon lunch. All right. Oh, I didn't know Shiva was a man. Thank you for joining. I didn't know that. Zacharias Sitchin and Chariots of the Gods. Even the Native Americans have long history of universe and ETs. Yes, they do, Rebecca. Yes, they do. And Zacharias Sitchin, he went into the Sumerian text and talked about the Anunnaki. I tried it once. I did not enjoy the experience, but it worked. And it was weirdly accurate and of what was or did happen. It was scary to me. I did not have any context. I can't read the whole text. I did not have any context as to what was happening, but it was somehow focused in on an intense experience someone was going through and went through. It was what happened to my future husband that I did not even know yet at around the same time. And I tried. Astral projection, long story, but woo, it works. Wow. Well, damn. Okay. Okay. Woo. That's deep. That's deep. And this is, and I thank you for that, Deborah. This is why I like to talk to people, because if the government says it, I don't ever believe it, because we already know they lie about pretty much everything. When people say it, I listen. Doesn't mean I believe it, but I listen. And Deborah, we've been hanging out a while. I trust you, and I believe that that's true. Like, I don't have a reason. This is what I talk about. I don't have a reason to deny people. Like, why would you deny somebody saying something? I only know things based on my experience, right? Why would I be so arrogant as to tell somebody else that something that they're trying to tell me about didn't happen? That's stupid. That's ignorant. That's dumb as the day is long. So I don't know, whether that's true or not. I have my skepticism, but me, I want to know more about it. So I'm not going to piss somebody off and tell them that it's not true, because I don't know. And how do I know it's not true? I'm not going to convince you that I know something that I couldn't possibly know. But this is what, and Donnell, you mentioned it before, that we all have to work together. And so the less we fight about silly, dumb stuff that we don't possibly know, the more we can share information. And we might get to a point where, it's like, oh, okay, well, we compare together the things. Okay, it makes sense. Well, maybe I didn't know. Maybe I was a little off. Maybe I did eat a bad piece of apple pie. Or maybe it is true. Damn, that's astral protection. How did I do that? Come tell me something. It's scary to me that you say it's scary. I'd love to astral project, Deborah, but you know what I'm scared? I have a natural fear of things. I don't want to go somewhere where I can't come back from. I'd be worried about if I astral project and I get stuck there and now my body can't move and now I'm on the other side of Mars or something, walking around like, damn it, now I'm by myself. I don't know how to get back. Why Deborah teach me how to do this? Dang it. And I used to like Deborah too. I don't want to be, ain't no Martians around here. So, but I'm a skeptic, and I don't want to do something I ain't never know. We all go somewhere in some caves or something. Oh, let's go in the cave. Let's send Gerard in there first. Gerard ain't going in first. He ain't going. I've lived this long, Deborah, but my natural fear. So I'm not gonna go do something till I know the end of the story. I need to know everything about it. I don't think they should mess around at CERN clashing particles together unless all of their research is in front of everybody and the whole damn planet. So if that one crippled, blind, crazy scientist that live in the Appalachian Mountains under some trash in the trailer came out and said, you know what, y'all shouldn't mess with that because we messed with that back in the 60s. Some bad stuff happened, aliens and came through the portal. We should listen to him, and he needs to be on CNN, and everybody needs to listen to his skepticism as opposed to 8 scientists, all who may have just got D's and E's. They may have failed science as far as we know. But they was willing to lie and keep secrets for the government so they could get the clash particles together. I don't know. I just believe in an open source society. I think everything should be wide open. I don't think there should be any secrets. They're messing with technology that's obviously beyond the scales of what we know how to control or what we've ever done before that we know of. So we shouldn't be messing with them. All right, last couple comments, then I'm going to end Crazy Sunday. Hey, Lois, thank you for your lot of subjects. I do too. I love trying to expand my mind, be open-minded to theories everybody has about what the heck we are, how we got here, and how we get to stay. Do not undermine the wisdom of the Vedas with your fantasy. Well, but Jordan, I don't think it's fantasy. I would call a lot of this fantasy if nobody was saying it, right? Like people just came out the blue and said stuff, and it didn't corroborate with what the ancients said. I would say I'd be really, really skeptical. But because a lot of people are saying the same things, and I don't like to deny people if they say it's the truth. I don't think the majority of people lie about stuff like this. That's my statement. I think the majority of people lie about little stuff, you know. Honey, I was working late. I think they lie about big significant things that the ancients passed down to us because they needed us to know the crazy stuff that they saw. I don't think they lie about that stuff. I think that that's a little too important. And when people lie about stuff like I don't think that they would invest, you know, massive amounts of time in etching in stone. So Enki was a god to the people. That's why the Bible says God made us in his image, but it was still Enki. Okay, Patty, thank you. I read Sitchin's book. I read a couple. I have all of his books. I read, I think, half of them. They were great reads. I don't remember a whole lot of it. Brother Bajorn says Sitchin is wrong, proven wrong. And there's a website. So for people who want to hear both sides of the argument, there is, I think it's called sitchiniswrong.com. You can check that out and hear the other sides of the descriptions of the translation of those Sumerian tablets. Lori said, I love how Brother Gerard never claims to know things he doesn't know. Because I don't like being wrong, Lori. I hate being wrong. You know, being wrong sucks. And a lot of people okay to be wrong. I don't like to be wrong. So if I say it, listen, Lori, it goes like this. If I come on here one day and I say, damn it, they opened the Stargate and monsters is coming through. Girl, get your family, get your bag, get some food, get your bug out bag, and get the hell out of Dodge. I don't like to be wrong. So I only say things that I absolutely know. And you will not see me on the air the next day because I'll be in my own bunker. No, I don't like to go out on ledges. I like theories, and I like to discover and try to figure out who and what we are. So, all right, I think I hit everybody. I didn't get a post from Danielle, so let me read this comment, then I'm gone. Isn't CERN about the God particle dangerous playing God? Yes, Danielle, and that's what we were just talking about. It's clashing together. One of my science friends, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's clashing together atoms, because they want to study what happens when the atoms crash together. You know, looking into the beginnings of the universe, the Big Bang, how the Big Bang is theorized to have started with two particles clashing together, the size of atoms, and it made all of this, right? That massive amount of energy that alone should scare the hell out of you, right? That alone, you know, the idea that somebody somewhere on this planet is playing around with some stuff because they want to figure out what happened during the Big Bang. They call it the Big Bang for a reason. Bang, right? I don't think they should be messing with that. Not yet. I'm not an anti-science. I'm not an anti-technology person. I just think if you are messing with the avian flu, some anthrax, nuclear weapons, CERN clashing particles together, geoengineering, things that could kill millions of people. If you are messing with any of that you cannot do that in private because your influence, the parties who are invested in what you're doing are all of humanity. And you messing with that crap could kill a lot of people. I think all of this stuff should be totally open source. I don't think anybody should ever cheer government secrecy in labs, because these companies, they just want to make profit. That's what it's all about. But they could end up, and this is what could have happened to our previous extinctions. We didn't force the truth. We didn't force things to be open source so we knew what these people were up to, and they extincted us. They destroyed us. They started an ice age because they blew something up, and the planet shifted, the poles shifted, the ice age came about, they melted a bunch of ice, and most of us died. So anyway. All right, that was fun. Appreciate y'all hanging out. This is Gerard coming to you guys with an ancient archaeology talk. You go back to the beginning, watch the whole thing. Today, we talked about the civilization that was discovered in Guatemala, 25 million citizens strong. We talked about how there had to be societies that were connected all over the planet going back into ancient times. And we talked about a few other things, the Vimanas and the Stargates. But anyway, listen, love hanging out with you guys. Y'all have a great day. Love you to death. Bye-bye.